It's called the thread delivery system. How does thread get from the spool to the machine? There's two types of spools in the world. You have the cone. Oh, I got it right here. We have the cone and we have a spool. They're both good. Some people like spools, some people like cones. If you look close how they're wound, most spools have a nice, beautiful straight wind. It's a straight wind. Some call it a parallel wind. Some call it a stack wind, but it's straight. And if you look at the, if you look at the cone, it has a nice crisscross wind to it. Both are fine. Thread companies like the cones, machine companies like the spools. They're never going to get together on this, but you can use either. It's a matter of personal preference. If you like the spools, if it's a straight wind, let's say you have a good thread, the right needle, you've adjusted your tension, and you're still looking, what's the next step? This is the last place to look. Thread that is wound straight is intended to come off straight. Straight wind on, straight wind off. Usually on our machine, does this look familiar? You put it on this way, and it comes off over the end. Every revolution like this, I'm putting a twist on the thread. And if you have a sensitive thread, and you're adding a twist every revolution, even though your machine company likes it this way, that might be what's causing the problem, because you're adding the twist to the thread. What's the solution? Most of our machines have some type of a vertical pin. Put on the vertical pin, and this way unwinds straight from the side, just like that. Straight wind on, straight wind off. This is how a spool of thread is intended to work. Machine companies don't use it and don't tell and don't teach it, but this is really how it should come off the spool. That might be the last 5% to solve the frustration. If you have a cone, the problem with a cone is it doesn't fit horizontally. There's not enough clearance on my machine. If I put the cone on the vertical here, it's going to flop all over. Sometimes they have a wooden dowel that goes up inside the adapters. You put the adapter here and it goes up here, and then we rotate the cone this way. We don't like that because it takes so much energy to rotate that spool. You're putting drag on the thread. And what will happen, you'll see it'll probably jerk and stop, and it might affect your stitch quality. A cone is not meant to unwind from the side. A cone is meant to unwind always straight over the top. And when the thread comes off this way, there is zero tension added, but it doesn't fit on my machine. So we go back a few years to the old thread stand. The thread stand, sometimes called the cone holder, sits on the table next to or behind your machine, so yes, it does fit your model. It stabilizes the cone there, it comes up through the upper hook, and it unwinds straight over the top of the cone into your machine. If you like cones, this is a great tool. There's two types. You can go to your discount store, get a plastic one for $5, unless you have your 40% off any single item coupon, get it for $3. You will hate the day you bought it because it will tip over on you, it's flimsy, it will break, and you just wasted your $3 and a good coupon that you could have used for a higher price item. Or you can go to a store and get a nice heavy-duty one if they sell them. Heavy-duty ones are all metal, they're weighted, they will not tip over. You do not need the adapter to fit the cone into the pin because that's only meant to stabilize it, only so it doesn't tip over. It comes up through the hook into your machine, it feeds off with no tension added, and it allows you to use cones on your machine. The advantage of using cones is price. Almost half price buying a cone versus 4 equivalent spools. It's a matter of personal preference. That's 95%. If you use quality thread, 50%. If you use the right needle, 20%. If you use or adjust your tension properly, 20%. And if you make sure that the thread is delivered to the machine in the proper way, 5%. That's 95%. Guaranteed 95% of all your frustrations dealing with sewing can be solved if you go home and apply it.